Evidence of bank fraudulent origination in Fannie Mae loan. In February 2008, the borrower applied for a full documentation loan. The following background information will show that the bank staff changed the income, changed ratios, and manipulated other data so the borrower would appear to qualify for the home loan, when in fact she did not meet the guidelines and would never have been approved had it not been for the fraud committed by the bank. The evidence reasonably shows the bank staff willfully committed this fraud multiple times. The borrower was told they were approved for an A-rated loan, which should have had ratios of no higher than 30 to 33%. However, the following will show the ratios were far beyond the approval ratios for the loan the borrower requested, and in fact, the ratios were beyond any loan that could have been approved. The borrower's actual income was verified and documented at just over $3,000 in all the loan documents provided by the bank. The bank representative fraudulently changed the income in his computer to $4,187.50 to force an approval in the computer underwriting system and then told the borrower she qualified for an A-rated loan. But this was not the only tampering with the income. A few days later in the loan process, the bank representatives again increased the borrower's income in the computer system, this time to $4,456. This was apparently done to increase the interest rate on the borrower. The income was increased in order for the bank to falsely ensure the loan stayed within Fannie Mae's top ratio limit of a 42% ratio, a ratio that was higher than the conservative loan the borrower was supposed to have been approved for, and the real ratios with the legitimate income were still well beyond any Fannie Mae limits. Why was the income changed by the bank the second time? Well, apparently the bank staff decided to increase the interest rate on the borrower, which likely was to provide increased commission for the bank staff. However, bank representatives never informed or asked permission of the borrower for an increased interest rate, so the rate was fraudulently increased to 6.25% from the 6% promised. This can be seen as 6% was listed in all documents before closing. In addition to increasing the borrower's income, the bank representatives began decreasing debts and removing items which would affect ratios such as HOA fees, insurance, and taxes. For instance, the HOA fees were either reduced by bank staff from their actual amount of $196 to a much lower amount of $68, or the HOA fees were not included in the calculations at all. Insurance was listed as $93 on some documents, and then decreased to a mere $28 when the interest rate was increased on the borrower. Taxes were $297, but decreased to $217 in the underwriting system, but the actual taxes were higher. In addition to the fraud with the underwriting and interest rate, the borrower was promised an 80% loan, but the bank took an additional $4,000 to $5,000 from the borrower's account. It is very important to note that these are just some of the findings on the documents released so far and serve only as an example of the fraud in underwriting. Fannie Mae is likely to find much more evidence in the records and computer files on this and other cases. All exhibits so far were from bank internal records. The insurance and title company are still more documents that could be reviewed. Further, this is only the origination fraud. The borrower was also victim of additional fraud in the modification and foreclosure processes. It is hoped that this information can be used to improve Fannie Mae investigations and underwriting policies, while also developing programs to provide remediation to the borrowers who have experienced harm.